Good morning. I hope you are having a good Thursday morning so far. I am Andrea Foster here with DeAnna Batdorf, who is an extraordinary Ayurvedic practitioner and a formulator. And we are here to answer your questions here on YouTube. We're excited to have you joining us. Make sure that you are entering your questions in the chat and DeAnna can review them and give you some awesome answers. But how are you doing today, DeAnna?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, my life has changed very drastically and has not changed at all. All in one big swoop.
That's amazing.
So I am in a very interesting breathing moment of time. As most people know who might be following us, the DeAnna Center is not only changed and has been closed down, but I'm continuing on my journey. And here we are. Ask me anything. I'm super seasoned at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to know in the Ask Me Anything, there could also be some interesting business questions. So, you know, like I'm good at what's your niche, or like, how do you market something and not step on somebody else's toes? How do you think about your community as you develop yourself in a community? And how do you build community as a healthy business, which is fair practice? You know what I mean? And just what is that? But I actually know so much about that with the DeAnna Center that I'm excited to see where that takes me in the next part of my life and world. Because I'm certainly not stopping, you know. I'm still seeing clients. If anyone is, you know, seeing me, they know. And I am also doing remote telehealth. And I have something really exciting coming up that's maybe, I don't know, Andrea, you might know more because I need to get the final stuff to you. But very soon as I get it to Andrea, she can actually execute. I'm going to be doing tongue assessments, which I do in the My Body Mapping course. I'm doing them right now. I'm like looking at tongues.
It's fascinating.
Tongues on a picture. And I'm just going through and diving into your doors of perception and my intuition, my instincts, and the map of the tongue. All your organs are there. And your tongue tells you everything. The shape tells you, the color tells you, the texture tells you, the coating tells you, and the cracks. There's so many things that can be read there in this very intimate, pleasure-related space that is always, you know, we feel best when it's hydrated. And it's one of those things that shows we want to be hydrated, because when we're not hydrated in here, things don't taste as good, feel so good, sound is good, you know, things are harder. And so we're going to be designing, and we are designing, a tongue assessment like program, you know, or option, like it's an offering. So you can send in your picture and it guides you through it. And then I personally read your tongue, and I can even back it up with a custom blend formula. So I'm hoping people are going to use that or buy that as a bundle. You know, get their tongue assessment, and like, I'll tell you about food and remedies, and like, I give advice, not just read it, you know, and then you can bundle it with a custom blend and you'd be able to, you know, then have me create a formula for you, because that's another thing I offer, which is custom formulations. And I just did one this morning, and I did one 2 days ago, and I did one a day before that. Enjoying that, like listening to people's questionnaires and sinking into what's being said according to those questions, and letting all those plants come forward and speak to me and come into my ears or my nose or my taste. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know, going to one of our questions today, cardamom just came into my space. Fennel just came into my space. And then I can look at them and say, cardamom, what do you have to offer here? You know, fennel, what do you have to offer here? How much of you are you offering up? Which is dosage. And how do you want to be utilized, you know, for this person? Do you want to go in a scrub? Do you want to go straight on the skin? Do you want to go in as a tea? Do you want to go into the food? And I let those plants speak to me as I'm listening and, to you. And I make up these beautiful custom formulas. And if you don't know this, but a formula in essential oils really should be psychoaromatic. So they should have some emotional components, and they should take you somewhere in your nose and your limbic brain where we store memory and emotions. Closest thing connected to the olfaction bulb of your nose is our memory. Smell and memory are literally just like right here, And so I invite everyone. I'm just excited because, I don't have a DeAnna Center anymore, but I still, have a practice, and I still am caring for people on the daily, and I'm still formulating. In fact, I'm doing more of that. My work has become very intimate. And so the people I'm working with, it's a little bit more of an intimate experience, even if it's not all in person, which is very interesting to feel the intimacy of the ethers,
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could be intimate there, to be honest. That's why I was avoiding video or doing that kind of thing, and I really can use the word avoiding, because now I look back and I'm like, ooh, that was avoiding.
Yeah.
Because I actually like it. There's a lot of intuition in the ethers. It's where it comes from. It's where it comes from.
Yeah, it's a really unique kind of connection. You just have to kind of have slightly different perception.
That's right.
For sure.
But I'm loving my
Martha's
work.
Here.
Who's here?
Martha's here, and she just
Hi,
mentioned she is in your body mapping class, as you know, and she was saying that her tongue reading was so informative.
I'm so glad. It's weird going in blind, but not blind, because I know the map and I have my instinct and I've read a lot of them. But it is interesting to not know someone, and then I'm just looking at their tongue and then having to intuit and intellectually put my truth out there, which may not always be perfectly accurate. It might lead you down somewhere else. Sometimes it's an opportunity to say, no, that's not me, which I still think is an opportunity if you take it,
Sure.
But I'm glad that I was able to read Martha's tongue, and I've been getting great feedback, in the My Body Mapping course, where people are like, OMG, that was the last one. This is awesome. How could you know that? This is so fascinating. And I'm like, well, we are maps, and so that's a very important part of it. I'll be teaching some tongue assessment and some face assessment also in the Birth Alchemy course that starts on June 18th. June,
June 17th, yeah.
The Birth Alchemy course, if you're into women's health and you don't have to identify as a woman to take that course, by the way, we invite everyone to that course. Learning about birth and learning about a human body and being able to carry another body and bring another body into the world from a body is so fascinating. That really shouldn't just be for what is a more confined box now called just women, or just men or anything. I mean, we're so much broader and bigger than that, us humans. And so I'm just wanting everyone to know that the Birth Alchemy course will do a lot of tracking. And yes, it's about women's health, about womb health, really, I should say, and the female reproductive. But we will be looking at all kinds of things, like how do you read the tongue in that category of fertility or labor? How do you do these things in the concept of pregnancy, fertility and pregnancy? And anything goes in that. Look at how dynamic family units are.
Yeah, I think it would be amazing if every human that is present at that birth is tuned in on the same wavelength, regardless of where they are in the gender spectrum, the partner of the birther. They are part of that birth, and to have a greater understanding of what that birth rhythm is, it enables them to sink in with it even better.
That's right. Yeah. And that's what makes it so potent and powerful. So many ways to be brought up in the world, So why not just be in the truth of like how you're being brought up and what's real to each family unit, you know,
Right.
or singular units. Some people are a singular unit, you know, going into this, you know, and that's, it's a lot to be able to know what's going on with yourself. So
Right,
it's for
right.
birthers and birth workers, both, you know, and we really advocate for, you know, autonomy, this idea of everybody being on the same page in your birth time and during your pregnancy on what it is that that womb wishes, you know,
Right.
how much
Right.
hands-on do they want? How much hands-off do they want? You know, but I'm excited about that class. It's just really going to be so precious to teach with Terry.
Yeah. And
Long
speaking
time
of
coming.
autonomy,
Yes.
yeah, speaking of autonomy, you're going to be speaking with Leah Hughes
Yes.
tomorrow, I think.
That's tomorrow, 3 to 4, right?
Autonomy, really. Yeah, exactly. You guys are going to be live on Instagram. And I think autonomy was a big component of her story, if I remember correctly.
Huge part of her story. And I'll let her tell her story because it was her choosing, you know, not mine. I'm just a good listener and witness as a practitioner to be able to really guide somebody in the safest way to do things and to be the most educated you can be according to what you really want. You know, who am I to judge what somebody wants or how they want to do something? I think that's really something we gotta, I feel like I want to stop that nonsense. I think it's nonsensical, honestly, to be judging each other according to our opinions or choices and decisions. We all get to make choices and decisions, and they're very personal. And, you know, what somebody else wants, you know, as long as it's safe and realistic, you know, and an option, why would I stop someone from being educated and being the safest they can be within what they truly, truly believe in and what they want? So, you know, it allows for a lot of room for, you know, crossover in beliefs of politics or religion or medicine or health. You know, I just think that's where it gets really actually forever creative and keeps it very exciting. Because then who knows who's going to walk through my door or ask for my help? You know, who's going to contact me and ask me for help? Who knows in my world? I love the idea that I don't even need to know any of that stuff. I don't care what their politics are. I don't care what their religion is. It just does not matter to me. Why are we not just respecting each other as humans?
Right.
Humans. Humans, that's it. We can all help each other if we just let ourselves be, you know, and something very precious could come out of that. So, yeah, I feel like it's an exciting thing to think about Leah and free birth and doing things the way we want to start doing them or how we always intended to.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what I just thought of? The word intend is tend. I never think about that. Tending.
Interesting.
Intend. I never think of that word that way. Somebody else might be able, duh, DeAnna. But I'm, you know, I can have an epiphany if I want. Something new every day.
All the time. I do that all the time. Yeah.
They just all of a sudden,
it's like you're within your tending.
And then I'm like, tend. Oh my gosh. Tend to your needs. Tend to your truth. You
and
know?
To be in that tending.
Intend.
Yeah. Fantastic.
May everybody do that today.
Yes, absolutely. Be in your tending. All right. So Martha actually has a question she'd sent in yesterday, and she'd love to hear more about a couple of friends you were talking about earlier, cardamom and fennel essential oil.
I already knew that one was coming up. Andrea preps me well. Okay, so, and we only had one question this week. So please, come on, send me some more questions. We can get this really flowing. This is a great one. And thank you, Martha. So let's talk about these. And you asked essential oils specifically, so I'm going to stay on topic more than it as spice. I do want to make a mention, though, that essential oils have a little bit different chemistry than spices do. When you have fiber and plant matter, you have a different form of chemistry, whereas in essential oils, they're actually not oils at all. They're volatile gases. That's why if you leave the lid off, they'll evaporate. So they're volatile, and that's why you need a special cap to keep them secured in the bottle. You need a orifice reducer, or you need like what's called a polycone cap, and that actually keeps all those gases secured down into the bottle. Otherwise, they would seep out and evaporate. So this is one thing to know about essential oils. And they're a different chemistry. They're based on organic chemistry. All chemistry is based on north, south, east, west. Takes us back to the elements. Chemistry is elemental: cold, hot, wet, dry. And that makes up our 4 seasons also, right? And so all of this is how chemistry really gives a property and function to a plant. And I don't want us to forget that we're using chemistry, so just as they use chemistry to make a medication, we have chemistry that makes a plant and is provided by the plant. And they're often very, very similar. In fact, organic chemistry, you could have phenols in ibuprofen, and you also have phenols in willow bark, which is how the starting of aspirin and all of those painkillers kind of started from that. So I'm just kind of putting that out there, because when you work with essential oils, and we'll get to fennel, cardamom, you need to know that you have to respect the drop. And one drop is like a serious potent hit of medicine that is driving straight in through your skin and transdermally making it to your bloodstream. So you're getting medicine into your bloodstream very quickly, and you can detect it on your breath about 10 minutes later, some of them sooner. And so we just need to know that dosaging is going to be very different. And let's talk about fennel first. Fennel is a 2-drop a day essential oil if you're going to use it long term. That's pretty low. So if you're overusing fennel, it is going to stimulate and dry you out, which is very, very unfortunate, because that's with overuse. And if you used it properly, it is actually very good for building flora and hydrating and satiating the kidneys, which are the oceans of the body. But the kidneys can only process so many essential oils, and eventually it'll start going into a little trauma, adrenaline response, and you'll start losing your water count. So you really want 2 drops a day. Now, why would I use fennel essential oil? Bones. Amazing bone health. Potassium, calcium, magnesium, perfect amount. And I'm not into people taking calcium with bone issues. I'm into vitamin D3, I'm into magnesium, I'm into electrolytes, but I'm not into people taking calcium. It's very hard to digest, and you need to make sure you have all the things you need to digest with. And that's the beauty of fennel, is it has all of those components for bone health. And it mends bone. It helps with porous, like strengthening it. And it's also an alkalizer for, it's called a carminative, which helps with gas and air pockets and bubbles in the gut. So you can use it just one little smudge or a drop in the belly button after a meal that just feels like it is going nowhere. Fennel is a brilliant one to even just do a little smudge in the belly button. Cardamom's going to play out that way too, as does coriander. So all of them are considered carminative, helping with excess gases. And hello, what's the components of chai? Fennel, coriander, and cardamom. Black tea changes things, the sugar changes things, but if you make a clean chai, meaning, no stimulant, no sugar, it was based on a daily digestive for keeping all the gases moving and cutting through the grease of the food. It is a high-fat diet because they live in very hot environments and they need to stay more protected. And they need fat to burn off for the amount of workload that they take on for their bodies in India. And so this was the thing that kind of kept it all churning and moving and digesting and breaking down. And so I think of it as stomach, small intestine specific, both fennel and cardamom. But fennel has this bone health, and we'll talk about cardamom in a minute because it's not really that. Fennel's got the gut, it's cooling, it's considered nourishing, and it is good for kidney, and it's good for bones and hydration. And that would be kind of the main reasons I'd be seeking out fennel. It's also, I do avoid fennel essential oil in a particular place with a particular person in the world, which is the person who has any estrogen dominant cancer or high estrogen issues. So if there's high estrogen issues or you have that gene, I think it's very important to just, I don't think fennel is going to there's no way it would cause cancer. So I'm not going that direction. I could never say that about a plant that is so incredibly tonic and good for everyday use. But it can, if you used it every single day in high dose, or if you were overusing that fennel, there is a chance that it would elevate your estrogen and activate those cells. So there's just something to be said for, like, I take people with estrogen issues, I take them off phytoestrogens, period. You know, fennel is super, super mild, but I still put it in that category because we know it's there. And I just think it's important to think about those things when I'm with an individual who's trying to do the best they can to, you know, not aggravate their estrogen. But do I think it's going to just raise your estrogen because you used it here or there? You know, no, it's mild, but good to know. Cardamom does not have that at all. So we don't have to think about that at all. It's an endocrine regulator. It has no hormonal value whatsoever, but it is a glandular endocrine regulator. So I use it for like keeping everything churning and getting all those endocrine glands working together as a unit. And cardamom is stomach digestion to blood, to heart, to liver, to heart. So when I think of cardamom, I literally think of like stomach, small intestine, breaking the blood barrier, cardiovascular, heart support, lung support, liver support, because lung, heart, and liver all are about blood supply, either making it liver, you know, or pumping it throughout and cycling it through heart and lungs, both. So this is a great body tonic. Like I think cardamom is probably one of my longest standing absolute allies that I just use on the regular, but I'm about chewing the seeds. So we'll talk about the essential oil. I'm more about chewing those seeds and using it for just kind of keeping all of my blood and all of my vital organ in a tonic, you know, working together state, you know, teaspoon a day. You just put a cute little bowl out and you just keep noshing on them. You know, we get addicted to them when we're in India on tour because they give you a different kind of smell in your nose and mouth versus what you might be smelling on the side of the street, you know. But I think that's all just relative to getting used to what is also, you know, you can get used to that smell if you just face what is. It's a different environment. So that environment smells differently. How neutral can you get? But the cardamom, sometimes it gets to you and you're like, I need a little something, something. So that's that. Cardamom essential oil, you can do up to 4 drops a day. It's another one of those that like you just don't need a lot for it to do its job. It's not going to dry you out real quick. It's not going to throw your body off, but you just don't need that much. And it's a, you know, it's a mid-range essential oil price. So you want to be happy. It's 4 drops. And I use cardamom essential oil, not daily. I use it as needed. So it's my, ooh, I feel funky. I said that about fennel, but my go-to is cardamom because it also just smells so good to me. and the smell, and it just kind of gets everything cycling and tonifying and kind of like flushing out what you don't need and getting back to your center self. And it is an antispasmodic, so it also drops out the psoas as it calms down the intestines. So that's really cool. But I'm an as needed, and I might even do 1 drop in my belly button because I feel all bloated. And if that works, I just stop there. Sometimes I'll go out for another drop and another one in the morning, and then, pretty much works from there. And then I put it in almost every heart tonic I make. So the moment somebody has a heart condition or a clogged artery, or they're even worried genetically, a lot of people have heart conditions. It is still the number one, it's the number 1 rated death in America is heart disease. I mean, number 1. We think cancer, we think of all kinds of other things. It is still the number 1. And women are higher percentage now than men, actually. So, hearts have to be thought of, and we don't think about our hearts. We think about them emotionally, maybe, but this could be a great heart tonic. And I'll even give you a little remedy here: rosemary, black pepper, and cardamom essential oil. And you do 1 black pepper. It's very different in essential oil than you're thinking as a spice. 1 drop black pepper, 2 drops rosemary, 3 drops cardamom. And that's a daily dose. You just do that like in the morning, because those are all a little more invigorating. I wouldn't go to bed with that. I would say that's a daily tonic for heart. And then if you actually have a heart condition, well, then you might want to more get a custom blend or, get something specific. But that could help any heart. That's the heart tonic I make. That's kind of the starting point for anybody, or genetically just wanting something so you're being preventive, and I would put that on varicose veins, which are heart related and blood related. I would use that with low or high blood pressure, and it wouldn't affect it, just so you know. So, but
So
yeah.
how are you using these oils? Are you putting
Heart tonic
them
like that? I would just put those, and black pepper is not going to burn your skin or anything. Those can go straight on the skin, and you could just put it right on your heart and go to, go on about your day. Go take your morning walk, because that's the perfect time to do it, is like put that on there and then go and move your blood, so.
And what about fennel oil for bone health?
Bone, I would probably think about what bones seem the weakest to you, and I would just apply accordingly. I'm going to be honest with essential oils. It doesn't matter where you put them, because they're going in your bloodstream. Some people like the smell bothers them, so I have them put them on their feet, so it's furthest away. But I'm going to say, if you have hip problems, they go on your hips. If you have elbow issues or knee issues, they go there, and it's more an intention. Plus, you're getting medicine directly in that region, and then it can move through your bloodstream from there. So, you get to go a direct, as long as the essential oils aren't going to burn your skin. The ones we're talking about will not, but there are other ones that will. So you just need to be educated. Otherwise, the way to start out, same idea. How do I put this on? Put a little salve or oil on your hand, put your drops in the salve and oil, and make it an oil rub, because oilination is typical for morning time anyway. Yeah.
That's great. And then just to touch on the herbal companions to cardamom and fennel essential oil, if you can just briefly talk about how, you mentioned cardamom, and I'm assuming you're popping the seeds out of the pod and you're chewing the seeds directly.
Yeah. And we actually sell the seeds decorded, which is what they're called. So you're just buying just the seeds, and that's the way to go. And then, they're the like true black seeds. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but if you've cracked open a whole bunch of cardamom pods, there's going to be quite a few of them that are white seeds, and those are considered like dead. You're looking for that dark brown seed. And when they're decorded, they have to sell them in that high quality, and they have to separate the quality, because they can't put a bunch of white seeds in there, because you can see them in a package. So, you're getting primos. Whereas the pods, you're kind of taking your you're going with a little bit of luck, and that's just the truth. I sell pods too, but you know, that's the truth. Yeah. So it's more about getting the decorded just seeds themselves, and you're just scooping out a teaspoon and put them in a cute little bowl and just really chew them around. They are kind of hard, you know, so I mean, you know, suck on them because they get slippery and silky, and then you realize how nourishing cardamom is. It's warming, not pitta hot. It's warming, stimulating, nourishing. And that's the beauty of cardamom, is super nourishing, you know, and it's more nourishing than fennel. You can tell because put a fennel seed in your mouth, makes you salivate, but it doesn't make liquid itself. You put cardamom seed in your mouth, it is getting slippery and sliding around and making mucus, you know, it's good mucus, you know, healthy flora building mucus, but they're super nourishing on their own. So fennel has higher enzymes to get the salivary glands to work, more enzymatic, and cardamom is a little bit more nourishing and stimulating and warming to get the blood flow. Those would be the two differences, you know? Yeah, that's how I would do the chewing on those seeds.
That is great. Well, everybody that is attending, please put your questions in the chat. If you are curious about any aspect of kind of self-care, holistic remedies, even some business questions, if you are wondering about that, DeAnna would love to answer that. Looks like we've got Kyra here and Adrian is here. Kyra did wonder, and I know you've spoken about this quite extensively on multiple occasions, but she's just wondering about your thoughts and insights on the COVID vaccine, especially around autonomy.
Around autonomy, like in the concept of everybody gets to choose whether they want to do it or not?
Right. I mean, it is kind of a tricky concept.
I mean, that's my primary place where I'm going to keep standing in the conversation. I'm not the most educated person on the vaccine. I'm not driven to that research. I don't know that I can even trust the research on either side, because it's very much trying to convince on both sides. So I don't usually research things that I can't really get a true value out of. But I also don't research or do things that I don't believe in, like don't give me 100%, you know? And so that's kind of where I've stood on the vaccine, is it's just extremely personal. And yes, autonomy, I think everyone needs to chill out and let everybody decide what they want to decide. Like, I'm sorry, I think there's so many ways to look at it. I can look at it in many of the ways that I'm not focusing on and be like, ooh, that's a really good point. You know, like I can look on both sides, be like, ooh, super good point, super good point, super good point. Oh, really good point, really good. I can see both sides. And then it's weighing out, where do you stand, you know, and what's true to you and what feels right for you. And so I'm not standing in any one place. I can only, you know, speak to my own personal self and what I think is kind of going on here. So when I think of autonomy, I don't know what you're quite going for, Kyra, but I think you're speaking of what I am speaking of, which is like everybody gets to decide and everyone needs to calm down and stop trying to convince one way or the other and let everybody be. And I'm sorry, but that's what I think on many, 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 many conversations in the world right now. I think there's a too much my way or the highway, and we're actually breaking friendships, you know, and we're, you know, talking about people, and there's gossip and conversations that I think have gotten extremely convoluted and extremely third, fourth, fifth, 10th party out. And I think it's very inappropriate, and it's breaking up communities. I think it's breaking up communities, and it's not worth it. And everyone should just be okay with whatever anybody feels safe with and wants to choose. We do have personal choice. And, I just think there's so many ways to look at it. So I'm had a really hard time weighing the options because I see both sides so well. It's been a hard one, really hard one. And I think it's hard for many, but yeah, when I think of autonomy, I think everybody needs to chill out and let everybody do what they want. And let's see where we land from there. And let's even see what this looks like 6 months, year out, 2 years out, I think both sides are also going to have complications. I think there's going to be complications on both sides too. And then there's going to be other things to weigh out. So I think there's that too. It's not even like a great decision to make. I think there's still issues that we're going to be facing down the line, no matter what decision somebody makes with vaccination right now, and then I'm just going to have to live with the decision I've made, and somebody else is going to have to live with the decision they made. But yeah, and I'm sure there's people out there that hopefully are here because they like me, and they may not like hearing this. I can only give you my truth. It's all I got. And I trust it for me. And everyone has to figure out what they want to trust for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, won't see someone because they are vaccinated, won't see someone because they aren't vaccinated, can't go over to somebody's because they are, because they aren't, because they are, because they aren't. I'm like, come on. This isn't really helping our community base to gather around and, or maybe it is. I believe in change too. Like, what if this is all of the things that need to happen so everybody knows who their people are, because we're going to be going to old style community building here if this keeps going the way it's going. We're going to need small homesteading communities everywhere, and we're going to need to know who we're in community with. So maybe the divide is somehow necessary. I'm having a hard time with that concept. But maybe the divide is somewhat necessary for everyone to know where they stand a little bit more in truth. But I like to think communities are broader than like, we are this all of us and we are this all of us. Like, that's not how I want to be in community. Mm-hmm. I'm about humans, right, all kinds of them, from all walks of life. Explore. You never know when you might change your mind. I've had people change my mind who have come through my life, and they've totally changed my mind on a way I was thinking. Because, we get to change our mind too when something is, looks different or has a different value, or you grow into it. So we also get to change our mind. So yeah. I like to think community is broader than just boxes. Makes me sad.
Yeah. Speaking of community, you're going to be teaching at the online NorCal Women's Herbal Symposium coming up. Yes. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're going to be teaching there?
Yes, we'll be doing the Zoom-posium since we are not in person doing the Women's Herbal Symposium. And I'm doing chest and breast care, and it's a lymphatic journey. So I'm going to be teaching everything you need to know about the lymph, from like beginning to the end, like literally, what are lymph vessels? What are nodes? What are immunoglobulins? What do the B and T cells do? Like, it's a really fascinating system, which is also called the immune system. So what a good time to know about our immune system. Whether you're vaccinated or not, you need to keep your lymph river moving. We needed to move it even before this. There's no reason we should not be moving it even more actively now, because our immune systems have to adjust, or they're going to have to be up against, still a virus. So we have to know about this immune system, the lymphatic river of life. And then I'll be relating it specifically to breast and chest care. and really looking at like, how do you do a breast check? You know, how do we pick up our breasts and like really look around, and what are we looking for? And how do you know a lymph node from something else that you might be looking for to, you know, get in early detection? You know, like what's the difference between a you know, cancer lumps, you know, and like I'm not a doctor. I just have touched thousands and thousands of breasts and made it my duty to know about my own. And there's just lymph surrounding it, and it's right at the drain of the lymph. And then I'm kind of like, man, the chest, the breasts are right there. And then I'm all about touch and love and respecting yourself and no shame and deep pleasure. And that is just my thing, you know, that I think we all should be sharing as humans. And so that's what made this class start happening. I started teaching this and doing breast checks at the women's, you know, symposium, some like 15 years ago. I've been doing it ever since. I've been going to the symposium for over 26 years of my life. So, yeah.
That's
So
beautiful.
almost my whole entire career,
I know.
you know, and it has changed my life and many other humans' lives, and been a beautiful women's community. And it's broadened into a more diverse world of what that is too. And I appreciate that. And that's why I'm really looking more at chests and breasts, because, you know, some people lose their breasts. Some people don't relate to their breasts. You know, some people don't have a lot of breast tissue, you know, and so they have more of a chest. So I'm going a little bit broader this time, since I do like to think all people, everybody be comfortable, but we got to touch ourselves and we got to know what we're looking for. And I have found abnormal lumps in chests, and I have found abnormal lumps in breasts. And for the most part, 80% of the time, with what I can do in my own little personal research, literally 80% of the time, it is a lymph node that's clogged or something that's dammed up in that river and it needs to move. And, you know, I teach you how to move it and how to use a gua sha, you know, and just how do you use it as a detective and a tenderizer. And most of those things will change and shift. And then you know that, you know, it wasn't a scary lump at all. And then the ones that won't shift and won't change, and we'll talk about those and what do we do and how do we know? But I'm super excited. I've been teaching it forever, and I'm still excited to think about that class. Just really, really great. Yeah, that's next Saturday, right?
Right. For the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I teach you in the morning, but please join me. It'll be beautiful.
And in the spirit of the Herbal Symposium, what plants are popping for you right now in your backyard?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, my hot lips salvia is like going off, and it is so beautiful with its cute little sexy little red and white flowers. All they're so. I looked it up online last year because I was like, I know this is a salvia, but I don't know this salvia. And I finally looked it up, and it was called hot lips. And I was like, you go. It is so hot lip salvia. I love that one. And so if you live in Occidental or a colder region, just want you to know this plant loves the yard. It doesn't care about the redwood needles. It doesn't care about all the roots in the ground. It doesn't care that it gets colder. It just lives year round. I have this plant here year round. It's so much fun. But the little flowers are all like, wow. My honeysuckle, I'm staring at my honeysuckle, which is making me so happy because I just got 2 new bee boxes. And I know that I'm going to primarily be having probably honeysuckle honey, you know, because that'll be the most prolific flower that is high pollen in my yard. So I know that's going to be the primary makeup of my honey. But it is smelling good. I went outside this morning and it was all dewy, and I could immediately smell the sweetness of the honeysuckle. And I was like, oh, it has such a long season, you know, it's just really, really wonderful. But yeah, I've got lots going on in this yard. I've got my foxgloves, which are so nourishing for the kidneys. Foxglove is so good. Most people just let it, flower like crazy. And then they're just like, okay, it'll come back next year. They do kind of a rotation thing and make another one next to it. But people forget to harvest the leaf and dry it and use it in teas. And it is anti-inflammatory, it's cooling, and it's nourishing. It's a lot like comfrey to me, even though it's a different leaf shape and it doesn't have the same pricklies, but that same, kind of cooling, mineral-y, high mineral magnesium, nourishing tea. It is slightly salty when you taste that leaf. So, there's some electrolytes. You want to taste the salt, and usually the more water content in a leaf, the more salty the leaf is going to taste. You don't want to just taste bitter and stop there. We have layers of flavors, so you might taste, bitter and then sweet, on the end, or bitter, salty, but the saltier, the more nourishing that plant is. So you want to pay attention, to how that plays out. The drier the plant is, like rosemary, it's not hydrating. It's more about moving fluid. So it's drying you out when you have too much cough or wet. And that lemon balm, or that foxglove or my comfrey, those are all like wet and juicy, and you squeeze them and you get liquid out of them. Guess what? Hydrating. And they're more salty to the taste. And so you're going to get more electrolytes out of those. And so, you want to be able to look at your plants that way. That salvia is more peppery and it makes red flowers. And it's a more spicy, peppery salvia. My California white sage makes a pure white little flower. And, you taste that and, it's got a whole different kind of bitter, profile that shows how cooling it is. So you just really want to look at like, what color is that flower and what color does that represent? Things that are red are hot, things that are white are, cool, things that are yellow are down the middle. Just like the core is solar plexus, yellow chakra, right down the middle. And so they're kind of a little bit, just a little warm, and purple. Hello, purple, blue. What do you think? Pretty
Cool.
cooling, pretty cooling, so you really want to let your plants speak to you and they'll tell you what they do. If you're willing to look a little deeper into the hot, cold, wet, dry, they'll tell you their terrain and their dynamics. Yeah.
That's amazing. Any of those plants good for the labor process or the birth journey?
Well, mint and lemon balm are my go-tos in my water daily, and they're my go-tos for pregnancy. And I mentioned that in the Birthers Can Do It class with Terry Simmons last week, just how valuable lemon balm for the nervous system and how valuable mint for kind of cooling and helping the stomach keep its digestibility as a womb is sharing space with that cavity.
Yeah.
How important it is to keep things down and moving and tonifying. So lemon balm and mint are just like way up there for me on a daily. They make a beautiful sun tea, but you can also just give them a little bruise, and put them in your water, and you're going to have this beautiful flavor water all day.
Nice.
For being a hydration queen, I have a hard time drinking my water. I think if you've ever been an intern with me in a Panchakarma, or if you've ever interned for one of my classes in person, I have been called out many a times for like, excuse me, you've been teaching 3 hours and you didn't even touch your water yet. Your pitcher is still full, as is your glass. DeAnna, hydration queen. So just because I teach it doesn't mean I I'm really good at it. I actually know I have to, keep it in mind all the time, just like anyone else, but I need flavor in my water. That is so notorious of pittas. Something doesn't taste good. I'm like, 10-day challenge, go through the bad taste, like aloe, And then if it works for you, well, then pitta's in. But you give them something that tastes good. Water's boring. I need some flavor in there, or like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to that glass for, even if I know what I'm going to that glass for.
Sure.
So I think, those are some of the things that are just fresh in your yard that you may not be looking around and saying, I'm allowed to put that in my water, like lavender. Or like yesterday, I crushed up evening primrose flowers. I have evening primrose flowers and borage flowers. And I have a tiny garden. And I got all this stuff just in this tiny little spot. But I took borage and evening primrose flowers and I muddled them and made a little paste. And then I added that in my water with salt because I just felt like I needed a little bit more nourishing. Yesterday, I was definitely having more of a grappling with like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, what have I done? I just closed down my entire life. Like, what have I done? And then I grapple with like, but there was nothing I really could do, but I could have, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
I was having a little bit of a regret day and just on and off, I don't go too deep, but I was having one of those days. And so that's what I did to feel like I was connected to the truth of my decision, because I made that decision so consciously.
Yeah.
It was so hard, but I did it so consciously. And so I was like, I need flowers. I need love. I need some just sweet love, And so I went out and got my evening primrose and my borage and put in my salt. And then I just made myself a big half gallon of water. Look at me, I'm crying. It's so cute. It's okay. It's real, real stuff. And I made my beautiful water and then I made sure I drink it before dinner. I just sip, sip, sip. Remember, you don't want to guzzle your water down. You kind of throw off your fire in your stomach. You want to sip, 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 sip. Every once in a while, I want a good little guzzle. Okay. But I've had to learn not only to drink my water, and I'm mentioning this because hopefully there's other people like me out there. I've had to not only learn to drink my water, but I've had to learn to not just, okay, finally, and then be like, wait a minute, no, it's okay to like go back to it multiple times, give just enough that my cells can absorb and my stomach, can handle and go from there. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, I think we're about at time. I want to thank everybody who has been watching and talking on the chat. It's really great to see everybody. I want to remind you all that we are still in a time when you can get a discounted price on the Birth Alchemy course that's coming up.
Yes.
Such an amazing course. Terry and DeAnna are good friends and mentors. And the work that they've done has really changed lives. It's kind of amazing to see the comments that have come back from students of both of them about how they've changed lives and improved birth situations, whether from the standpoint of a doula midwife or a birth assistant, or the individuals doing the birthings themselves. It's such a pivotal gateway to a human life that it's important to honor it and to make it a potent ritual. It's a rite of passage. I think we've kind of lost sight of that in kind of the medical kerfuffle, that it's deep on so many spiritual levels. And that's part of where DeAnna and Terry go on that journey. So right now until May 31st, you can save $100 automatically. You don't have to enter a discount code or anything. It's just $6.99 right now. And we have payment plans on that savings too. So hopefully that'll make it accessible to you all. It's entirely online. There are Zoom calls once a week, but they're recorded too. So it's really designed to be coming where you are to you. And of course, just a reminder, just because we're not on Main Street Sebastopol anymore doesn't mean we're not everywhere in the world. You can get really amazing products. You can get DeAnna's custom blends. You can get her brain working on your situation to make an oil for you. So please look on our website for that. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see what we're up to all the time. And if you like this video, make sure that you like it, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you'll know exactly when DeAnna's back again in 2 weeks. Any closing remarks for us, DeAnna?
Nope, I think just everyone stay tuned. There's some beautiful things happening downtown with that space. Just like I said, it was going to get repurposed. I just want y'all to know it's getting repurposed. So that has been a beautiful thing for me and for the other businesses involved. And you'll also be seeing my products in Rosemary's Garden and also Bliss Organic Day Spa. So you're going to be seeing my products still in town if you want to pick up anything you might need from me. All my primary products are going to be there. But yeah, I think everyone is going to have a self-care sanctuary at their disposal very, very soon, including a whole bunch of practitioners across the way. And no, it's not a DeAnna Center, but it is a great collective and it is a continuum. So it is being repurposed and I just want y'all to know, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Or I'll see you in the ethers if you can't get to Sebastopol.
That's right. Come back and see us here too. All right. Thanks so much. It's wonderful to see you all. Take care.
Adios.